The rain fell in silver sheets against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse overlooking Manhattan, turning the city lights into blurred diamonds. Inside, the air hung thick with the scent of wet stone, expensive candles, and her perfume, jasmine and warm vanilla that wrapped around every breath like a secret. Lila Harrington stood at the edge of the room like she'd been carved from moonlight and hidden desires, her porcelain skin glowing under the low chandelier. Her silk slip dress, the color of midnight, slid over her curves with every subtle shift of her weight. If you're already leaning in, heart racing just a little, do me a favor right now, hit that like button and subscribe. We're just getting started, and this story only gets deeper. Jax left that night with her scent still clinging to his skin and questions burning through him. The next 48 hours blurred into rain-slick streets, locked drawers, and late-night texts that felt far too intimate. Any updates? She would write at 2 a.m. He would reply with facts that somehow always circled back to her. The way her husband's partners looked at her like another asset, the offshore accounts that didn't add up, the public smiles that never reached her eyes. He followed her once, from a distance, watching her glide through the lobby of the Carlyle in heels that clicked like a countdown. She paused at the revolving door, turned, and looked straight toward the shadow where he stood. Their eyes met across the busy street and the city noise faded. She lifted one gloved hand in the smallest wave, a secret shared in public. That night he dreamed of her fingertips tracing the line of his jaw, slow and deliberate, while she whispered truths she'd never say in daylight. They met again in a dimly lit cafe in the village, rain streaking the windows like tears. She arrived in a trench coat the color of smoke, collar turned up, hair damp and curling at her temples. When she sat, her knee brushed his under the table and neither pulled away. Their conversation danced between the case and the way the candlelight painted gold across her cheekbones. "Sometimes I feel like I'm living in a glass house," she confessed, voice barely above the clink of silverware. "Everyone can see me, but no one sees me." His hand covered hers for a heartbeat, thumb stroking the inside of her wrist where her pulse fluttered like a trapped bird. Heat pooled heavy and low between them, unspoken but undeniable. 3 days later the file landed on his desk like a bomb. Bank statements, private emails, a single grainy photo of Lila in a hotel hallway at 3 a.m., not with her husband, but with a man whose face was turned away. Yet Jax recognized the posture instantly. It was her husband's own brother. The shock slammed into him. The perfect wife wasn't just cracking. She had been living inside the fracture for years. He drove through the pouring rain to her penthouse, heart pounding harder than the wipers. When she opened the door she was barefoot, wearing nothing but an oversized cashmere sweater that slipped off one shoulder, revealing the delicate line of her collarbone. "You found it," she whispered before he could speak. Her eyes were wet, not with fear but with raw relief. "I've been waiting for someone to finally see." He stepped inside. The door clicked shut and the world narrowed to the space between their bodies. She reached up, fingertips grazing the stubble on his jaw with a touch so gentle it ached. "Tell me the worst part," she breathed. He did every damning detail. With each word her breath quickened, her body swaying closer until the heat of her pressed against him like a promise. His hands settled on her waist, thumbs brushing the undersides of her ribs through the soft cashmere. They stayed like that for a long, trembling minute, foreheads nearly touching, lips a whisper apart, while the storm outside matched the one building between them. "Hey, if that twist just hit you hard, pause for a second, smash that like button, and subscribe. We're about to go even deeper, and I don't want you to miss a single heartbeat of this." They didn't plan what happened next. It simply unfolded the night the power flickered out across half the city. Candles glowed everywhere. Thunder rolled like distant drums. Lila poured 2 glasses of red wine and handed him one, her fingers lingering against his. "Stay," she said simply. "The streets are dangerous tonight." They talked for hours on the velvet couch, knees touching, voices dropping lower with every secret shared. She told him about the suffocating weight of being perfect. He told her about every case that had left scars on his soul. At some point her head rested against his shoulder. His arm slid around her. The scent of her hair, rain and jasmine, filled his lungs until he felt drunk on it. When she tilted her face up to his, The kiss came slow and searching, full of years of unspoken longing. His hand cupped the back of her neck, thumb stroking the soft skin there, and she sighed into his mouth like she had been holding her breath her entire life. Clothes stayed on. Touches remained tender and exploring. But the heat they built in the dark, fingers tracing spines through fabric, lips brushing earlobes, whispered names that sounded like prayers, was more intimate than anything either had known. The world outside ceased to exist. Only candlelight on skin, the catch in her breath when he pulled her closer, and the slow, aching burn of two people who had finally found what they'd been missing. Morning light found them still tangled together, her sweater twisted, his shirt unbuttoned, breathing like they had run miles. Lila traced idle patterns on his chest with one fingertip, eyes distant. "This can't happen again," she whispered, but her body pressed closer even as she spoke. The cracks in her perfect image were showing now. Tiny fractures from a decade of playing the flawless wife to a man who treated her like a trophy. Jax kissed the top of her head, inhaling the warm scent of her skin. "Then we'll break the cage together." She looked at him, eyes shining with terror and hope, and the kiss that followed was softer, deeper, laced with tenderness right before everything changes. The rest of that day was stolen moments. His hand on her lower back in the kitchen while she made coffee, her quiet laughter when he stole a kiss behind the refrigerator door, the way she melted against him when he pulled her into his lap just to hold her. Every touch spoke what words couldn't. Every lingering glance promised more. The anonymous notes kept coming, slipped under doors, emailed from ghost accounts. One line stood out, "I watch with more than eyes." Jax chased the digital trail until it led to Elias Crow, a former employee of Lila's husband. The man had lost his sight in an accident years earlier but had gained sharper senses, hearing, touch, memory. Elias had seen the predatory way her husband controlled every part of her life. Hidden cameras, tracked phones, subtle threats wrapped in affection. They met Elias in a quiet Brooklyn brownstone. The blind man sat by the window, fingers moving over a braille keyboard, voice calm. "She's not the only one he's broken," he said. "But she's the one he wants to keep perfect forever." Lila's hand found Jax's under the table and squeezed hard, nails leaving crescents in his skin. Fear and fury and quiet certainty filled the room. They were no longer fighting alone. The full blueprint was elegant and cruel. A decade-long plan to keep Lila trapped while her husband funneled millions through shell companies, using her social connections to launder it all. Every gala smile, every charity event, every staged photo was currency. The threats kept her compliant. The brother was just another tool. Jax laid it all out on the marble island in her kitchen while thunder rolled again. Lila stood barefoot in his shirt, arms wrapped around herself, tears tracing silver paths down her cheeks. When he finished, she crossed the space between them in 3 quick steps and buried her face in his neck. His arms came around her instantly, one hand cradling the back of her head, the other splayed across her lower back, pulling her flush against him. They stayed like that a long time, bodies aligned, hearts beating in sync, while the truth settled around them. In the end, the choice was hers. Keep the perfect life and its perfect cage, or walk away with nothing but the man who had seen every fracture and loved her more for them. They stood on the terrace as the rain finally stopped, city lights sparkling like new beginnings. Jax's fingers laced through hers, thumb stroking slow circles against her palm. "Whatever you decide," he murmured against her temple. "I'm here." She turned into him, rising on her toes until their lips brushed, soft, lingering, full of every unsaid promise. The kiss deepened slowly, hands exploring familiar territory they had only just discovered, until the city blurred and nothing mattered but the heat building between them once more. They left together at dawn, suitcases light and hearts full. The porcelain had shattered, but what rose from the pieces was something real, something alive, something worth every scar. If this story stayed with you long after the final line, if it made your pulse race and your imagination run wild, then please, right now, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling me what you felt. Turn on notifications so you never miss the next tale of shadows, secrets, and the kind of desire that changes everything. American nights are long and full of stories like this. and I can't wait to tell you the next one. For the video description, mature themes, viewer discretion advised. This is a work of fiction containing suggestive romantic tension, emotional intensity, and thriller elements. Not suitable for younger audiences. Stay curious, stay safe, and remember, sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is fall for the truth.